Still very accurate. Please
Your
send
mics work. So yes, please send dick pics to Dustin, as many as you can.
And dicks out for Harambe.
And we don't discriminate. So whatever you can find, just send him his way.
Any of them, even if it's just a guy named Dick and you want to send me your picture, I'm down with it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm down with that too. That's perfect. Richards,
I would like to be excluded from this. I don't want pictures of a guy named Dick.
Well, just the guy named Dick though.
Yeah, everything else she seems fine with.
Dustin, you're gonna have to just like throw yours out to her every 5 seconds to compete with all the ones gonna roll in now. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I know, right? So
Dick's in your pants for Harambe.
No, Dick's out.
No.
Yeah, Dick's out. What are you drinking?
A girl beverage.
Oh no.
Yes. My friend brought them over. They're like way better than White Claws. And yeah, I don't know. It's just like a lemonade, but it's like a flavored alcohol lemonade. It's amazing.
A flavored alcohol lemonade.
Wow.
What you got?
I got
Little Mark.
Maker's Mark, and then we got a bottle of Kinky floating around here somewhere. We're doing shots of. Oh, here we go.
Or a bottle of Kinky.
You could chug a bottle of Kinky shit.
I know that shit's great, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't even care. You can call me whatever you want. That's just delicious.
I know. We were just talking about it. It tastes like Hypnotic, but a little bit yummier.
Yeah, I do love Hypnotic too. I'm still a big fan of the Hypnotic. Old school Incredible Hulk vibes with that Hypnotic and Hennessy.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to see the light going on there.
Yeah, well, I didn't like the light in my fucking face. It really bothered me the last time we did this. So, dude, I can't even go outside when it's cloudy and not have sunglasses on.
It's cloudy.
I seriously, I can't see. I'm like squinty. I look high as hell if I just walk outside when it's cloudy.
Wait.
So I put the light behind me. So
you're not high as hell is what you're trying to say?
No, I'm not. No.
Wink.
No.
No. Allegedly.
Allegedly. So for those who don't know,
introduce our guest, man.
For those who don't know, this is Kate, or Kat, if you will. If you can't read, if you can read, then good for you. I don't know. She is a soldier currently. She is a lieutenant in the Army. She's also a D1 rugby player, amongst other things, artist, and a trillion other wonderful things. Also, my lovely girl. But I thought that it would be great to have her on tonight, in that we had a bit of a conversation about with a president not so recently banning trans soldiers in the military. And there's been a lot of kind of like under rumblings about trans people, in sports and things like that over the last few years. She and I were talking recently today about rugby international. Excuse me. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Rugby banning trans people just kind of quietly, even though there was a lot of uproar about it in the rugby community. But I thought it'd be a really interesting conversation to have. Getting multiple sides of this story. Please feel free to fill us in. Obviously we don't know the whole story.
Just give us some background and we'll go from there. Sorry.
Yeah, no, just where I wanted to start with was in regards to me being in the military. When the Black Lives Matter movement really took a big hold again this past spring and summer, the military did issue kind of a memo about how we were allowed to talk about issues. We are allowed to protest. We are allowed to speak about issues. We're always allowed to defend people's rights. But any of my opinions or any of my protests or anything like that is not affiliated with me being in the military. So I did want to put that out so that I don't.
I hope I had military on my disclaimer. If not, yeah.
I think it did, but I just wanted to double throw it out there.
Don't say that the opinions in this show do not reflect the United States military or any of its conglomerates.
But send
Um,
dick pics to Dustin.
But please continue. If you are in the military, especially, send me a patriotic dick pic. I will be making a collage.
and again, not me.
A
But
quilt.
so
A quilt, if you will.
there before this ban was proposed a couple months ago. The stance before this was if you're a trans woman, i.e., transitioning to being a woman or identifying as a woman, you had, and to compete at elite levels of rugby, you had to be on hormone and display testosterone levels of the average woman for a year prior to competition and during all competition.
So you're saying that if you were born a man,
Mhm,
born male, and you were transitioning to a female,
mhm.
you had to have these things. Okay.
Or you wanted to
So
compete in women's rugby.
that's pretty much across the board then, right? Because the Olympics are the same way since 2014, wasn't it? That as long as you can have the testosterone test for a year, you can compete.
Yeah, I don't know about the Olympics. Just with this, it was for a year and during all competitions have testosterone levels of the average woman. Then you are fine to compete in elite rugby. But a couple months ago, World Rugby, who kind of governs a lot of stuff, I guess I can't say everything, but govern what we play at least, proposed a guideline that said until we figure this out, trans women are not allowed to play rugby. Period. And they tried to cite that it was unsafe for like biologically female players, or basically that they said it was unsafe. That was the wording that they used, but it was never like there's no anecdotes of this. There's no evidence of it happening. It hasn't happened before. So kind of everyone in the rugby community was like, hey, this is bullshit and none of us believe in this. And we fully accept our trans players and our non-binary players and our gender non-specific players. Anyone who wants to come play with us, we welcome them to come play with us. Every rugby team I know has like banded together in saying this and saying rugby for all. And then on October 9th, they very quietly passed this anyway. So now if you are not born a female, you cannot play women's rugby. So
So let me
everyone's
ask
pissed.
you, what do you think about them saying no trans people allowed to play until we figure this out?
Let me see what the bill says. If it says like until we figure this out, says yeah, it says may not currently play women's rugby. So that's where I came with until we figure it out. I think that it's powerful transphobia, because I think it would be a different issue if there was a lot of talk in the community about like, hey, we're being physically hurt by trans women, or we're being physically hurt by people who were born male, but there hasn't been like a single report of that happening. So
How many? I don't want to interrupt, but how many trans women play rugby?
on our team in Denver, we have at least one out trans person that plays with us.
That's a weird statement. Well,
there are trans people that aren't comfortable with coming out of the closet or comfortable with transitioning or anything like that. Like the same way that you don't have to transition to the gender you identify with in order to be a trans person. A lot of people can't afford surgeries or afford hormone treatments. People don't want to transition or anything like that. But we have one player on our team who is a trans man, and he still actually plays with us. He is older, like he was on his way out of rugby, so he really just teaches a lot of us how to play, but he also very much plays with us.
So that's a very interesting conversation right there, is that we're talking you play on a women's rugby team, but you have a person, an individual who was born male, born female, transitioned to male, identifies as a male, but plays women's rugby.
Yeah, that is kind of a strange, because I agree.
So since he has started his transition process, he hasn't played competitively with us. So I guess I couldn't say like how it would really work. But he didn't retire because he was transitioning. He just retired because it's hard to play rugby into your 30s. Like it's damaging on your body.
No, yeah, no,
So-
I understand that. I was confused if he was
I
a
don't know.
male rugby player playing on a female team. It just seemed like weird, but you're saying he wasn't, so it's
Right.
fine. Moving
So
on.
not technically a man playing women's rugby, though.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna. We all know what we're talking about. I'm not gonna argue the semantics of it. We're all doing
I think that's
our best
what
respect.
we are arguing is the semantics of it. Is that we're arguing whether or not you have a competitive edge as a person who is born a man playing a female sport. You're saying this person was born a female, transitioned to male, or is currently transitioning and now is playing in a female sport, which, mind you, again, that might be okay if there were rules in place for, trans people in general.
Right.
But you can't say I'm a man now. I identify as a male. I want to play female. I want to play women's rugby.
Well,
That's
Yeah,
I
I
think
think even you yourself said that even if you haven't transitioned, you still have to be considered that gender, if that's what you feel like in your heart. So if you consider yourself a man and he's playing women's rugby, that's why I asked the question. Whether or not he did, if he didn't, that's fine. But if I asked the question, that's why I asked the question. If he
yeah,
considers himself a male player playing on a women's team, then it kind of confuses me.
correct.
yeah, it's hard. It's definitely hard for me to say in regards to this person specifically because again, he didn't play competitively with us since he transitioned. We play with a lot of non-binary people that are, for legal terms, female, but identify as non-binary. But World Rugby is talking about like a gender non-inclusive team. So like there are all gender touch rugby teams because basically the argument is whether or not people who have a lot of testosterone are at a physical advantage over people who do not have a lot of testosterone, so males having more than females. So they're talking about having all gender touch teams, all gender tackle teams.
Well, that's just stupid. All gender touch teams just sounds retarded. I'm sorry, but if you're gonna have touch rugby, it doesn't make sense to even play. So it just
Touch rugby is pretty common for people like over the age of 40. There's a lot of like old man teams that.
well, I
play
get
touch.
that, but that's why me and Dustin would play flag football because if I hit Dustin, number one, I'd break myself and he probably hurt his shoulder. So we're old, we play flag. I'm talking about a competitive league of touch rugby. It just doesn't seem like it is in the spirit of the sport.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. They'll never be like. I don't think they'll ever be elite levels of touch rugby. The same. There's not like elite flag football, but those still definitely exist for people who, are injured, don't want to tackle, etc.
So
So
the
that
wanna
just
call it
sounds
spring.
like a way to eliminate trans people from competitive rugby then. I'm
Yeah.
arguing your point. That just sounds like a way to
It
fuck
is.
people over.
It's so they kind of started associating this is the part where I'm less familiar on, so I won't, again a little asterisk by what I'm saying, but they apparently kind of started affiliating themselves with organizations that were pretty outwardly anti-trans and pretty outwardly transphobic, and then this guideline came about. So it's like, hey, we're all trying to kind of be like, hey, World Rugby, this is blatant and powerful transphobia, keeping like all trans women out of a sport until you just decide to do something about it, like in the meantime.
Well, let me ask you a question. You brought up nothing's happened. There's been no incidents.
Right.
Why do we have to wait till something does happen? Because as a woman and decided to play women's rugby, I could hit somebody pretty hard, and I think that's where people get worried because it depends when you transition. Because if you go through puberty, hitting all that testosterone in your body, you're growing differently.
Mhm.
You're gaining muscle, and if you take steroids for 20 years, you're going to be stronger than someone who didn't take steroids for 20 years. So whether or not you get off them for a year, you're still stronger than someone who didn't. So I'm not saying that this is my view on it, but this is that other side of the argument. So my question is, why do we have to wait for something to happen to decide? Let's figure out what the outcome, what could happen first.
So
If you look at like football people got their heads fucked up for years and years and years and years, and then the league's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we should look at concussions. If a sport's taking a different approach, like, hey, let's see the consequence of this before we just let it happen. What's really bad about that? Because they didn't outlaw it completely. They just said until we know.
So I think that's a fine point, but this is just an opinion of mine, but it seems like everyone's just up to this point. Trans people and non-trans people have just been respectful of each other in the sport. Like, I think this ban is based widely on like old transphobic ideas of people just wake up that morning and decide what gender they are. And I'm just going to decide I'm a girl today, so I can go into the girls' bathroom, and just these like really destructive arguments that people who don't understand trans people have been using for many years.
And while I agree with you, and I definitely see what your point is, that, you know, maybe it's a little dated way of thinking that trans people, or that there's just some guy one day that's going to decide to go hang out in the girls' bathroom because he suddenly decides he's a girl, you know, blah, blah, blah. That's all stupid. We all know that that's not how trans people work. Like, that's
right.
not.
Well, I'm saying that it's like a similar line of thinking, because it seems to me that all trans people and non-trans people in the sport of rugby have just kind of been respectful for each other. Rugby is something that I've always gone back to because it's like the most inclusive, and though a lot of people hate the term, it's like the safest place I've ever been that you can like completely be yourself, no matter like your sexuality, your gender, your anything. And no one in the rugby community is going like, I'm going to go play women's rugby, even though I'm still still haven't even started transitioning, and I'm going to go hurt people. Like, there isn't anyone doing that.
But what Mike is trying to say is that what's the problem with getting out in front of this? Because eventually there is going to be a guy who is a retired pro rugby player that's going to decide to play D1 women's rugby and really hurt a girl because he can be an all-star in that. You know, we're talking about the movie The Ringer all over again. You know? It's like, I'm going to go compete in the Special Olympics even though I'm not like handicapped.
So go ahead. Eric, go ahead.
No, but like the way Mike said that about like people getting concussions in football. If we were to have gotten out in front of that and being like, hey, we see that a lot of people are going to get concussions soon if we keep on this track, you're just keeping people safe and taking away no one's rights in the process. But your idea is that you think you're going to be keeping people safe in this, but you're taking people's rights away in the process. So I feel like it's less like the concussion example and more like, hey, we're letting people in America have guns. No one's killed each other yet, but let's ban all guns because someone might kill someone else. You know? It's a discussion. I think it's less a discussion of safety and more a discussion of rights.
So I guess my question to that is, so if you said the whole rugby community is cool, let's have trans athletes, let's play, no big deal. Because let's face it, if you're playing rugby, you pretty much don't give a shit. You're going to go after somebody or not. It's you're having fun. It's a game. You don't care if they got whatever. It doesn't matter to you. But I don't think rugby is taking a position of this is what our players want. They're taking a position of this is what's going on in the world, and there's people watching what we're doing. So if there's a rugby game on and some girl gets just annihilated by a trans athlete, there's going to be blowback against the league. I think they're just trying to insulate themselves from possible blowback and not so much being transphobic.
Yeah, I mean, if you see a girl your size get hit by a girl Mike's size who suddenly, you know, he last year this time he identified as a man, it's going to be a serious issue. As tough as you are, he's 3 times the size of you. It doesn't matter. And then if just because suddenly or within the last year or even 5 years, he decides he's a female, that can be a serious issue.
And the argument is, if you take, a female my size, if you have a female that's 6'3", almost 300 pounds, I'm going to have a lot more muscle than she is, just naturally.
It's not
And it's just
that we're not saying that in a case by case situation that women can't be stronger than men. That's
no.
not.
There's a spectrum. There's an absolute spectrum. There's weak ass men and there's strong ass women. There's definitely a spectrum. But I'm saying a woman my size is not going to have the same build as I do. So if I transition and a year later my testosterone levels aren't high, well, shit. I'm 35. A year from now, my testosterone levels are going to be dick. I'll be fucking dropping that shit under my tongue. Honestly, so.
Shut up.
Oh, sorry. You probably. Well, my point being, so a year without testosterone for me, it's going to. I don't know. I'll probably not feel as good, but I'm still going to be strong.
Well, I think the thing that, even I seem to have forgotten this since the beginning of our conversation, but everyone was kind of fine with the rule previously. If you're going to compete in rugby at an elite level and you're a trans woman, your testosterone has to be at the level of a woman for a year and during all competition. And I think that's a reasonable middle ground. I definitely agree with what you guys are saying about like leagues protecting themselves. It's a corporation. I guess I understand. I can understand where a corporation's coming from. I'm just not okay with, and the community is not okay with, people losing their rights in the meantime to play rugby. Everyone has been fine with this rule for a very long time, and now it's banning all trans people when nothing's happening, and like you had more time. They were supposed to, like, in November, they were supposed to table this until November, when there was going to be like discussions and people chime in from the community and everything, and then they just quietly passed it in the meantime. They're like, these are like the big pillar things that people are having a problem with.
Well, I don't know a whole lot about rugby. I honestly don't follow it. I've probably watched like 9 minutes of rugby my whole life. Not saying you're not a badass because you're doing football shit with no helmet. So it's a badass thing to do. But I imagine most of the audience would be male. It's a sport and it's a contact sport. So I imagine most of the audience is male. And I imagine if you're looking at it from a league point of view, if these male dads, these guys got girls, if they see a girl get trucked by somebody who is a trans woman who was a man 1 year ago, and since then has had levels of testosterone that are low enough, that it's possible by the rule. In a year you can get your testosterone that low. You can start taking estrogen, you can do things to drive your testosterone. Mm-hmm. So a year ago, this was a guy, and now he's a pro rugby player she is a pro rugby player as a woman, and trucking people. I think that would make like dads concerned about their daughters. I'm a dad, so I can see where the concern is, like, because I don't think that's a fair playing field for my daughter.
I think
that's the. Go ahead.
No, I think that we might be underestimating how much hormone can really affect the body. I have 2 trans friends that are in the military. And during both of their transitions, I talked to them about their hormones, because they aren't allowed to, and there's no gender middle ground in the military. You are either legally a male or legally a female, and they don't really care in the middle. So the process from when each of them were legally male to when they became legally female, they had to follow male regulation, male PT standards, male fitness standards, and everything. But they were on estrogen and reducing their testosterone in their bodies. And it very quickly became much harder for them to meet the male fitness standards. So, none of us have been on hormone changes. So I think we might be underestimating how much it might actually affect a body. But I also have had the shit trucked out of me by a 6 foot tall female, and it just happened. And frankly, I just dove out of the way, so she didn't hurt me very much. But like, I don't know. Then it becomes a conversation of, are we going to start banning people that are too large or too small? And that's just,
So
you can
here's,
go on and
here's
on.
some headlines from the Federalist, and this was from 2019. It says male transjacking, air quotes, will ultimately end women's sports. And I mean, this is just a quick Google search through. Trans athletes are posting victories that women can't compete with, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to get into too much of it, but stepping aside from rugby, powerlifting, swimming, running, genetically speaking, a male's body, a male-born body, is designed for certain things athletically. Not saying that women can't do these things. The argument is that when you have a man who was born a man, who lived a man, 25 years old as a man, transitions to a woman and becomes a power lifter in the same weight class, it's very difficult for a woman to
sets records.
Now this person is setting and breaking records that had never been broken before, or very rarely. The argument is that should that woman be allowed to compete in women's sports, being that they were born a man?
Mike?
Oh, well, should they? It's hard, man, because there's a spectrum. So it would take a strong man to transition to be a woman and set records. But that's the problem, though. The problem isn't the run of the mill. The problem isn't what you're seeing every day. The problem isn't your teammates that are trans. The problem is the exceptions. The problem is the ones that are exceptional, that stand out so far above everybody else, and they happen to have grown up, or not grown up, but had worn a male and had testosterone introduced into their body at a young age, and that the body developed differently. And the problem with it is, okay, let's allow it in rugby. I got no problem with it. Listen, if rugby women don't have a problem, I don't have a problem. As long as everybody knows what they're up against, as long as everyone's like, hey, I don't care. I don't care what she's ever been. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't, as long as they're fine with it, I'm fine with it. But as a league perspective, they're waiting to see who acts first, because once you've opened that can of worms, it's open. And so it's then you go by sport basis. Well, what makes this sport different than this sport?
I mean, to sound naive, but if you put LeBron in a wig in the WNBA, it's going to be an issue.
I mean, but if you look at even Fallon Fox, the fighter.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with her? I mean, hold on. I'll show my screen. I got a picture. Hold on. So I can figure out how to do this again. Hold on.
I think it'll be interesting for high school sports, because a lot of doctors don't encourage, people to start taking hormone until after they've finished puberty or before they've started puberty. I mean, I guess I don't totally know. Like, it just seems.
So that's Fallon Fox. She's a pro MMA fighter, and she has smashed some people. And they didn't even tell people. They didn't tell people that she used to be a male.
Hold on, can we stop for a second and just talk about, can punching someone in the face really be gender neutral? Can we just talk about that headline?
The answer is yes.
You all right? You fall asleep over there?
Me?
No, Justin's sending me messages. He's watching. He's sending me messages or links. Justin, I'm not going to look at any links. I'm having a conversation, man. You can't do that.
I feel like maybe he's it's probably porn. It's probably those kids earlier.
No, it was something about a wrestler winning a title. I don't know.
Maybe that leads to a really interesting conversation. So at what point do we say, hey, being born male gives this woman a distinct advantage? At what point do we acknowledge that? And then at what point does it make it fair for all the other women competitors? And then at what point can we prove that some guy is just doing this so he can be sponsored by Nike or given tons of money for playing a sport or just for the sheer fame of it. You know, at what point is this? Are we trying to figure out if this woman is taking advantage of being born a man by doing this? You know what I mean? There's so many what ifs that the idea of trying to get out in front of it and trying to get rules in place before it becomes an issue doesn't seem so far-fetched to me. It seems like a pretty logical thing to do, is to be like, okay, look, eventually there's going to be a guy that decides he's going to play rugby as a woman and just murder people.
Then my opinion is then deal with it then, because in the meantime you're infringing on people's rights. And while I can, you know, acknowledge league decisions and acknowledge, you know, all the what ifs, I just am not okay with people's rights being taken away in the meantime.
So then at what point, how do you argue against this woman who is now breaking every record, winning every match, never being tackled? And you're just like, okay, so is it because she was born a man, or is it because she's just a superior athlete? And then at that point, how do you even address that? You can't. It's too late at that point.
I think I can look at it from a different perspective, because that argument, I mean, you can really have that all day back and forth, whether it's an advantage here, advantage there. We can have it, and it's fun. Let's do it. Men are stronger than women. Women are stronger than men. Girl power, man power, whatever. But I look at it differently. So I look at it from, what if there's one female rugby athlete that goes, I'm not comfortable playing against a woman who used to be a man. What if there is one? Should she be excluded because she's not comfortable?
It's a good question. Because
it's not even transphobic. I wouldn't even call it transphobic to be concerned about the difference.
Yeah,
especially at a younger age. I get that completely, but what makes her not be able to have her right to play, or the right to play in a level playing field in her eyes? That's how I would look at it. Not even who's at an advantage. That's an argument that we can have, but it's not even that. If we're trying to be all inclusive, who are we shutting out by trying to be inclusive? Because there's always going to be somebody shut out. There's going to be a girl, and there's a girl, I'm sure, in rugby, worldwide rugby. I'm sorry, I'm the organization. There's a girl that's not comfortable with it, and maybe she's afraid to even say something about it because she's a minority in her beliefs.
Right.
So why should she feel that, you know, she's at a disadvantage? And I'm sorry, it just doesn't make her transphobic. It just makes her have a different line of thinking. Listen, I wrestled against women in high school. There was a girl in our high school team, and same weight class, it was a different story. It was a whole different strength. It's a whole different thing. But like I said, it's not an argument of that. It's an argument of, if you're going to be all inclusive, then you have to consider the people who might not be comfortable. And it could be scary for somebody to have someone that grew up a man, spent 20 years as a man, and now they're running me down. It could be exclusive to them. So we could be excluding people in our effort to be inclusive. And that's something the leagues have to look at. I'm sorry, but that's the truth of it.
It's true.
I don't really disagree with you. I'm trying to, you know, in my head, I'm trying to link a comparison to, I don't know. I'm trying to link a comparison so that I can, you know, find a solution, because I think, you know, when we have these conversations, everyone kind of wants to bring a solution to the table, and I don't have a perfect one.
I don't think there is a solution, and I think that's the point of having these conversations. Is that
I don't think there's a perfect solution.
Well, I think a start to that solution would not take people who disagree with it and label them transphobic. I think that's a start of it. I mean, I'm on a different side of this than you. I explained why, but that doesn't make me transphobic. I have nothing against trans people. So it's hard to have a conversation if it starts off with the fact that if I disagree with you, I might be called transphobic. So where do these conversations get had, and where does it go from there? It goes from a league just going, you know what, fuck it, we'll figure it out later. We'll err on the side of caution, I guess.
I think that the league could have handled this a lot better by hearing the grievances and waiting until November to hear what the community actually wanted. I think that's a big issue that everyone's having is they did this very sneakily and very secretly, and there could have been opportunity for very smart people way smarter than me, to present reasonable solutions that they could have executed in order to not infuriate everyone and not discriminate against people. Someone that's much smarter than me has an answer, and they didn't even get the chance to hear it.
How much? I guess my question would be, how much power do you have in your league?
None. Well,
None.
none.
Do you make decisions on like rules? Do you like rules of the game? What's a foul? What's not a foul? What's this? What's legal? What's not legal?
No, that's all at the league level.
Okay, so what makes a league decision any different? If you guys don't have that power regularly, how come this issue becomes where it has to be voted on essentially versus decided by the league?
I think because it's alienating a group of people and taking the right of certain people to play away, and it's not like hey, we're gonna make everyone wear scrum caps now. And also they said they were going to wait and listen, so and then decided not to.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the league should have addressed it, 6 years ago when the Olympics did. I think the league, by letting it just be like, hey, okay, we're going to be here, let's do this, and then changing their mind, yeah, fuck them. They should have addressed this years ago. It shouldn't be now where the trans thing's a controversy and it's a big political thing and there's all kind of political ramifications. I'm sorry, but you don't wait till then. You do it before. So, yeah, I agree with you. The league kind of fucked up in that, right? They should have done it before. It shouldn't be a now thing.
What is the rule for trans people in the Olympics?
It's a year, same thing, a year with testosterone levels. But the difference is they addressed it then and they haven't changed it now. So
right, and
changing it now.
Rugby did address it then, but they just decided to change it now.
Yeah, so the league's stupid for doing that. I'm sorry, once you commit to something, you should just go with it. If you commit to be inclusive, you should be inclusive. You shouldn't stop it. I get where you're coming from there.
Yeah.
But I can also get where they're like, oh, well, let's hold the phone for a second. Let's chill the fuck out and see what's going on. But I'm looking at comments, man. Even Justin said like a solution separate leagues, but I just can't. You can't have
Continue to divide
them to their own league. It's like putting Indians on a reservation. You can't just be like, here, you guys are over here away from everybody else. There has to be.
Or it's like, it makes me think of like Special Olympics, like it's isolating.
Well, and that's the other thing is you can't, every time there's a new genre, for lack of a better word, you can't just decide you're going to have another league. It's like, okay, well, we have a black women's NBA. Now we have a white women's NBA. Now we have a black women over 6 feet tall NBA because it's not fair to women who are under 5'3" NBA. It doesn't. You can't just keep doing it over and over and over again.
Click on your comments.
I mean,
but
I don't have my comments.
Yeah, how do
you don't have comments?
Chat?
No, you don't have comments. That sucks. But
I just saw chat and Dustin said poo poo pee pee.
That's private.
Oh no.
I don't have comments.
So the comments coming out like
that stuff.
people like Justin and James are both talking a lot about separate leagues, but I don't know, man. You can't call yourself a league.
Further discriminatory.
Yeah, I think so too. That's the opposite of what we want.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way to do it. It's just no one knows yet, and it's a new thing. People are like, I don't know what the fuck to do with this, and it's a new controversy because in 2014 it was like, whatever. No one really thought that a trans woman was going to come through and set a bunch of records for lifting. Nobody thought a trans woman was going to knock people fucking dead in MMA. No one thought that was going to happen, and it's happening. So leagues they're gun shy on it. They don't know what to do or how to handle it. So I don't know. It's hard to really say what to do.
I'm not saying that it's a fledgling issue. Trans people have been around since there have been people. It's not, it is what it is. We're not arguing whether or not this is a new thing. Trans people is a new thing. The argument is that these companies, because that's basically what they are, say whatever they want. The NFL is a fucking company. These companies are trying to figure out how to not lose money, as well as make people happy. But that's the order it goes in. Not lose money, make people happy. And right now they're saying, let's just try to figure this out. But right now it's too complicated. It's like when I was in the military, it was don't ask, don't tell. And there was a reason for that, because there were men that didn't feel comfortable showering with gay men. It had nothing to do with whether or not that gay man was going to like frolic over and rape them. It's not going to happen. The problem is that these men who are already in, was like, I don't feel comfortable with that. Just like you don't feel comfortable with me showering with the women. So that being said,
I feel comfortable with you showering with women. I think you guys have the same parts, and even if not, yours is just barely bigger than a large clit. Let's be honest.
Micro peen. I'm still. Also, keep
you just
rolling in.
You just rub off. You rub off. You don't jerk off.
I didn't jerk right. No, so the argument there was we need new barracks. We need separate barracks, because if you're gonna be gay, you can't be with the men, and you can't be straight and pretend to be gay and then be with the women, because that's also wrong. So the argument is that, well, we'll just do don't ask, don't tell. You can be gay, but if you come around and tell everyone you're gay, that's a real problem. Which I'm not saying I agree with that, but I don't necessarily disagree with it.
I disagree with don't ask, don't tell. I think it's good that it's gone. I think if you're going to serve your country, you should be comfortable being who the fuck you are. I didn't serve my country, so I don't have much to say about it, but I feel like honestly, in any aspect of life, you should feel comfortable being how you are.
That's the argument you just made with the athletes, is that if I don't feel comfortable showering next to a gay guy, why do I get ostracized? Because I'm not homophobic. I just don't feel comfortable with it.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying having a policy of making people hide who they are, as in don't ask, don't tell. I'm not saying gay people shouldn't be in the military. I'm not saying that people should just fucking sack up and deal with it, which is what I've done my entire life around gay people. I have no
in
problem
10
with
years
it.
from now, is that exactly what we're going to be saying about trans athletes? People should just suck up and deal with it. Just a thought.
No, I think whether or not you're showering next to somebody who did or did not have a penis last year has a little bit of a difference than whether someone's going to truck you in a rugby game. And it's not even you. Listen, they're saying it's for the athlete's safety. It's not what it is. It's for the safety of the company and the perception of the public. So it's not even that. It's what's going to happen when some guy sees some girl get trucked by a 6'5", 350-pound, I was a man last year athlete. It's an extreme situation. It's never going to happen. Is why I'm saying it. It's absolutely outrageous. But what happens if something like that does happen? That's the problem the league's facing. They're like, what the fuck do we do? They don't know. So they're going, I'm not getting fucking sued.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. They're protecting their money first, people second. And you can say whatever you want, but it's a company. Everything's a company, even World Rugby.
But that's separate from the don't ask, don't tell argument. And I mean, the problem is the Army spent so long, the military spent so long ignoring that there was gay people. They were like, there's not gay people.
I mean,
it was what was it, like 2000? When did that shit end?
2008, I think, somewhere in there. 2009.
Obama.
So yeah. So the don't ask, don't tell went away, and then the Army goes, how do we deal with this? And it's a problem because you can't take people. Not everyone's comfortable around gay people. People are really legitimately homophobic, like afraid of them. And some people just don't know how to deal with it, and haven't experienced it. Like I grew up around people that are gay. It's part of my life. I don't think twice about it. Yeah, dude, I've slept in the same room as this guy, and he's fucking rubbed my taint so many times. It would honestly probably make you jealous. It would make you jealous.
It's true.
But
true. I got this callus from his taint. He doesn't shave it often enough.
Yeah.
It's like beard stubble down there. It's weird.
I'm so unhappy right now.
I don't even know what I was fucking talking about. That just fucked me up, man. All I was thinking about was your beard between my legs, and I got excited and confused. So now I don't even know what we're talking about. But
excited.
The thing is, the Army, they didn't know what to do with it, and in the effort to be all inclusive, it excluded people and made people not feel comfortable. So,
But
in the army and everything, go ahead.
that's the argument that you just made, though, about women's sports, is that the people who are uncomfortable with it doesn't necessarily make them homophobic. It just means that they're uncomfortable. So why should they be ostracized because they're just not comfortable showering next to a homosexual? It has nothing.
I think
them. They're just not comfortable with it.
I'm making a definite distinction between playing in a sport where someone could fucking hurt me versus taking a shower next to somebody's pee-pee. That's what I'm talking about. There's a difference to me.
I'm not arguing whether or not there's a difference there. I'm arguing whether or not is there a difference between someone being ostracized because they're uncomfortable with the situation, even though the greater corporation or the greater population feels that you shouldn't be uncomfortable. That's the argument.
I'm waiting for Kate to jump in. She's been quiet.
No, because honestly, I just
Comfortable with the beard burns.
yeah, that made me that out of everything that we've talked about, that was the most uncomfortable for sure.
Welcome.
No, but honestly, like I just think the point that you made about it being a corporation and them not caring about the people and just caring about like the lawsuit, the lawsuit they're predicting is going to happen. Like I feel like something clicked in my head where it was just like, it was never about trans women. You don't give a shit about trans women because we don't give a shit about trans women playing with us. We welcome them constantly. They're just predicting a lawsuit at some point and therefore covering their asses. They don't give a shit about what people's rights are. They give a shit about fucking money. And it's just like, I'm just like, Jesus, that's not something that clicked for me. I thought it was blatant transphobia until here, and not to say that it's not still transphobia, but it's just fucking about you're just fucking
it's perception.
There is that if that's true, let's just say that's true. It's not about transphobia at all. The league doesn't care one way or another what's between your legs. Like either way you dangle is fine. The argument is that if they're trying to save themselves from a lawsuit, is that wrong? I don't think it is.
No,
I don't think it's wrong. I think as a company, if I owned a company and there was a potential for a lawsuit and me saying, this is just how we're going to figure it out for now, not saying it won't change in the future, but
it's rights. It's people's rights in the meantime. And that's where I want to agree with you, because if it was like, hey, they're using the forklift to carry people around all over the place, we're not going to do that anymore. It's clearly a safety violation. I see a lawsuit versus let's just not let a whole group of people play a sport. It's just it's discriminatory.
Yeah, it's discriminatory, but it's at the same time, it's not an unreasonable thing to do from a business standpoint, especially when your business depends on public perception. And like it or not, the trans issue isn't 100% like everyone's like, yay, trans people. People legitimately have issues with it, and especially people that happen to be fucking the males that are going to watch rugby. The people that are going to fucking buy merchandise, the people that are going to buy tickets. It's not just going to, I'm sorry, but the male population is going to be more into it than the female population is, just because of what sport is.
Trans men are not banned from rugby.
Yeah, no one's afraid of a trans man trucking anybody.
Right. It's just trans women.
I Googled it earlier. I was curious about it. When Dustin brought this up, I looked into it a little bit. And if you Google, male to female trans athletes, there's 100 pictures, there's names, there's bios, there's Wikipedias, there's records they've set, there's things they've done, achievements they've made. And if you Google it the other way, if you Google male to female or female to male trans athletes, there's a boxer. There's a boxer that was really good and competitive, but there's not a whole lot of examples of it.
Let's just be honest here. Men, we're garbage. Generally speaking, we're fucking garbage. And if we can find an exploit into where we can be like, hey, I can go and beat up all these little girls because I'm just bigger than them and I'll win a bunch of shit for it. There's going to be a guy that's going to do that because generally speaking, we're fucking garbage. We're gonna do that. What the fuck is this now?
Wow.
I found this. Look
Hi,
at that.
Justin.
I can show
Well,
you.
yeah, I
Don't
can't.
disagree.
I agree with Justin there. The problem with that is that
He's mad that we're all ignoring his text.
Jay, we still love
Man.
you. The argument though is with that particular comment is that who in the current athletes or the future athletes, who are we catering to? Are we going to cater to the future trans people who are trying to get into rugby, or the current non-trans people who are upset about it? I mean, what?
And I think the league is going to cater to the people who are upset about it, and they're really not going to care about the players. That's an example that's been set across every fucking league in every sport across the world. The players are paid to do something, or the players are not paid in some cases to do things, and the corporation makes a ton of money off of them. And so they're gonna follow the bottom line. They're not gonna do what's right for the athletes, whether you guys are all in agreement or not, whether
Right.
you guys are okay with it or not.
I mean, look at how many years. I mean, I don't want to sidestep the issue, but look how many years it took for the Black Lives Matter movement and these equal rights movements in the NFL to even come to the forefront that it is, and it's still getting a lot of blowback. But Kaepernick kneeled not this season, so we're talking like how many years has it been since that whole thing even happened, that we're just now seeing athletes being respected
I'm
as
still living in my parents' house.
black athletes. And then so if you just copy and paste that into a trans issue where you're
Great,
like,
you fucking pissed her off, man. God damn it.
I'm just getting another drink.
she's not good. Yeah, that's probably
Listen,
gonna
she's really sensitive about Kaepernick. She's really fucking sensitive about Kaepernick.
be Cap fan. He loves his afro. Which who does, right? The if you just cut and paste, how many years are we gonna go before trans athletes are accepted as the gender that they want to be? Granted, trans and Black Lives Matter movement are nothing similar at all. I'm just talking about a timeline here. So please don't blow up my fucking dick picogram with that nonsense. I just want dick pics.
I think that that's a really good point. It's like we think about, let's go back to the 1800s where it was just white men have the rights. And then it was, okay, the way of the future is females will be equal and black people will be equal and gay people will be equal. And I think that
actually, black people got the right to vote before women did. So, yeah, sucks to be
Damn. Shots fired.
Whatever.
Yeah. I know what? It's cool, dude. You live
like,
with it, so you fucking enjoy that. You enjoy that.
I think complete trans inclusivity is the next, is the wave of the future. And in 50 years from now, it will be trans people are expected to have the same rights as cisgendered people. And, I
don't even know what that means. I'm sorry, I don't know what a
cisgendered is. If you identify as the gender you were born with.
I was cisgendered. We are a straight white male.
If you are a cisgendered person, you identify with the gender you were born with.
So
you were born a dude and you identify as a
you identify
man.
as Apache attack helicopter.
Can I just be a guy?
Nope.
No. That's
fuck that.
racist.
That's bullshit. What? No, but back to Dustin's point. Okay, so
shut up, racist. I just want to be a guy. No,
I knew it. I knew I would be a racist at some point in this conversation. I'm like, I knew it. We're not even talking about black people. We're talking about trans people, and I'm gonna get called a fucking racist.
Whatever.
No, but to Dustin's point, okay, so the Colin Kaepernick thing is a really good example for this in a really shitty way, because we're not talking about people's rights, we're talking about someone kneeling for a cause, whatever. So, but the league was like, fuck this, we can't do this. And they made rules, they didn't know what to do. They were worried about public perception. And people didn't like it. They were losing ratings. Everything was fucked up. So all that went away. Kaepernick lost his job. Whether or not he should have got hired back, he kind of fucked himself up that way. But he shot himself in the foot to get back in the league, is what I'm saying. But anyway, the point is that now the league is like, well, Black Lives Matter. And you guys can put little slogans on your helmets, even though nobody can see them. We're going to advertise that you guys have people's names and social justice messages on your helmets. And they're going to be this big on the back of your helmet by your jersey. So they're doing what they think is best for the public perception.
I think
right now,
hating their financial, their monetary gain. They're not doing what they think is best for the people. They're placating their athletes so that they will continue to make them money.
Well, because
that's what I'm saying.
I mean,
like,
they were getting heavily fined for kneeling for the flag.
Yeah, it wasn't like these guys were just hanging out taking a knee. But I think we're getting a little sidetracked here. I'd like to go back to trans people and not. I mean, it's real easy to fall into Black Lives Matter movement, but my issue is for people who, yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess. So the issue I would have here is that I would be okay with obviously human rights. Like, how can I? It's just ridiculous to even say out loud. I would be okay with human rights. The argument for me as a cisgendered male is that how do I know? Knowing what I know now about us being garbage people, and knowing that there are guys out there that will definitely take advantage of the system, whether they're pro athletes, elite athletes, or just your everyday frickin' Joe, these people are there and they will take advantage. How do we stop that? How do we say, listen, you're not a woman. You can be on estrogen for 2 years and your testosterone levels can be almost zero, and you can try to prove it all you want, but your motivation is not to be a woman athlete. Your motivation is to be just superior to whoever you're playing against. How do you figure that out?
You can't, because
how do you separate that?
I think that's a slippery slope. That's why it's such a thing people can't figure out, because so if you're an exceptional person, exceptional athlete, even just a woman, if you have to set standards for what could be a man, a really juiced up man, a really strong man, whatever you want to put it, transitioning, there's women that are stronger than that person. And the Phelan Fox example I brought up, there's a woman that knocked her clean. Women can be more exceptional than a trans woman, whatever. I don't know if I'm saying it right. If you guys get mad at me, I don't give a shit. But the problem is, if you try to filter out a man coming in, transitioning to a woman, you could also, if you set standards that way, be limiting exceptional women and stopping them because they're stronger than most average women. So then if you try to do that, you're eliminating the chance of having people that are more exceptional than others. So it's just a really hard thing to navigate. It's really fucking, I don't know. It's no one knows really how to deal with it. So everyone's going, you know what? Let's just hold off for a little while. I don't know.
Well, that's what I mean. So the real issue here is how do you discriminate against one person who you found out is only doing it for the money or whatever? You know, I think that's the argument these companies and that, you know, a lot of people are having, is that when can you discriminate? You know, as horrible as that sounds, when can I suddenly be a bastard and tell, you know, Fallon that they're just doing that because you thought you could win? You know what I mean? That's what
it'd be the same as like putting an asterisk next to someone who had steroids, I guess. I don't know. If you look at it like that, you delegitimize what they accomplished, whether or not people think it's a fair thing. I don't know. It's just such a hard thing to really, I don't know, man. It's a rough one.
Let me take a sidestep here and just come out and say it, that I think if you're a pro athlete, you should be on steroids. I think that if you're a pro athlete, I want my 450 pounds and can bench press a limousine, and then I want to watch that football game where all of them are that big. Where like the guy so hard he flies 90 feet through the air, and then he gets back up. He's all roided out too. That's what I want. I want our athletes to be superhuman and then watch that sport.
They get paid enough that they should be superhuman. Fuck.
And
I
then
thought you liked wrestling. I thought you were like a
Yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin fan, man. I thought you dug that sport. I thought you already had that one where they're all roided out.
I met Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's
No shit.
amazing. Yeah.
I
My
met
first
Jake the
day at
Snake. I met
BuzzFeed.
Jake the Snake Roberts. Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
she didn't even know that is. It's
You
a
don't know Jake.
used to
Man,
bring-
it's an hour. Cut this fucking podcast off. Fuck that. Everything you say now is delegitimized. Like nothing you say, I don't give a
Okay,
shit.
but I didn't know who
Fuck
Stone Cold
rugby.
Steve Austin was. It was my first day at BuzzFeed, and the office was like, Stone Cold Steve Austin's here, and I was like, let me YouTube that real quick so I know who the fuck this is.
Oh,
If
that's
you
so
ever
disappointing.
smashed 2 beer cans together and tried to drink whatever pours out of them.
I got it now because the video was making Stone Cold Steve Austin try fruity drinks.
Last time I did that, I threw up on a cop car. That was at Jeff's.
Chefs. So Christy here says if people didn't advertise their sexuality so hard, then maybe it wouldn't be looked at so hard. And while
Nah.
I mean,
Nah.
I can agree
Shut
with
up.
what
I'm
you're
gonna
saying.
do whatever I want.
If it's not, I don't know if this is what she means by it, but you know, if sexuality isn't on the forefront, isn't in the forefront, then maybe it wouldn't be such an issue. You know, if
So
we don't care that Fallon was born a man, so we just let it go. You know, like who cares? Because that woman looks suspiciously man-like, but whatever. You know, no big deal.
Okay. Hi.
Suspiciously
so here's
man-like.
something.
dude, that
What?
might be a guy. Is that a
But
guy?
yeah, you put me in a fucking bikini while there'll be no bulge. I'll
Oh,
definitely
you're getting fucked. You're getting fucked. Oh, wait.
Bye, Mike.
Not wrong podcast.
wrong. It's a different night, different podcast, a lot darker in here.
Okay, so I want to kind of address what Christy said, because I was seeing something recently about how like uncomfortable people are with when people say they're uncomfortable with gay people, they mean like the flamboyantly gay people. Who gives a fuck? Let someone be whoever the hell they feel like being. If you get to wear Crocs and all camo, then that guy gets to be as gay as he wants to be. And just leave everyone alone. Holy shit.
Well, I agree with that.
Just
Listen, I've worn
oh my
Crocs
God, the
and
world
camo.
sucks so
I don't
hard.
agree
Just
with
leave
Crocs.
that. Just if he wants to be super gay, let him be super gay.
Thanks,
No,
babe.
let's talk about Crocs. Crocs are great. They're so fucking comfortable. Are you kidding me?
Stop.
One of my soldiers showed up in full uniform and Crocs, and I allowed it.
I don't blame them for 1 second. I've had several pairs. I don't have
It
now
was
any
camo
now,
Crocs.
and it's gonna haunt me until I can buy some.
Fleece-lined camo Crocs.
But-
How could I not allow that?
I think back to the point what Christy said, I think the problem is if you go back to like the bathroom issue with trans people, listen, no one cares if someone walks in there and goes pee and leaves. It's a problem when like, hey, I'm trans. I'm gonna go into this bathroom. It's like if you act like you belong because you belong, if it's not a big deal, then it's not a big deal. No one fucking knows the difference. The difference is if you're like, hey, I'm gonna go into this bathroom because I'm a trans person. It's the same problem I have with fucking idiots that do Second Amendment audits. Like, hey, I'm having a gun. Let's see what the police do. It's like you're announcing you're doing something that people aren't always cool with.
Right, you're just ruffling feathers on purpose, and I don't really care what side of the coin you fall on. There, you're an asshole. If you walk into a police station with guns and then you get pissed off that they arrest you because you have guns in the police station, you're an asshole. If you
We
walk,
talked about this one, but that's not.
right, if you are a trans woman, born a male, trans woman, walking into a woman's bathroom, be like, "Don't worry, I know I have a dick, but I swear I won't look at any of you." You're an asshole.
But that's the thing, is like trans people aren't like that. They literally
No, I
just want to they just want to fucking pee and be
But
left
there's
alone.
exceptions to every rule. There is a trans person out there that's like that.
No, there's not. There actually isn't, because when the trans bathroom movement happened, they were like, "Oh, trans women are gonna assault you in the bathroom with their
Is there-
penises,"
Is there
and
a
that had never
that
was
have all the trans-
0 times.
and what
Big
they're-
giant 0 never happened.
Listen, I've seen a lot of really ugly women. that could possibly have been men. And so I've never been like, that could be a guy. I have. I'll be honest. I've wondered what's hanging. But the point is, I've never questioned what bathroom they're going into. So the fact that there's a question in a debate of what bathroom is going on, who's going in what bathroom, that's a problem, because if they were women, they would just walk into the women's bathroom and it wouldn't be a debate. And if they didn't make a big deal out of it, no one even know the fucking difference.
But that's the thing, is trans people weren't making a big deal out of it. They just said, please let me use the bathroom in which I am most comfortable with using. And everyone was like,
I'm not saying
no.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that maybe you're not completely informed. I'm not saying that all trans people are going in the bathroom and be like, hey, I had a dick, but don't worry. I'm not saying that all, but I'm sure there is one or two out there that have said that and are true trans people, not like asshole dudes like myself, actual trans people being like, I'm going to go into this bathroom and you're going to accept this no matter what. You can't.
I just don't think that that's true. I just don't think that's true, because every trans person I know is literally just like, I just want to be a passing woman, or I just want to be a passing male. Please just let me do that in peace.
Yeah, and I agree.
That's what I'm saying too. But my point on it is, it's not the trans people that are the problem. It's the fucking guy that puts on a pantsuit so he can walk into a bathroom and look at some kids. There's fucking people who do that. You could say there's not trans people all day long. I agree, there might not be. There's definitely fucking sick bastards that'll walk into a girl's bathroom.
I think pedophiles is a different conversation than trans people. And
okay, but
we should, yeah.
Well,
I'm not saying trans people are not pedophiles. I'm not saying they are. That's not my
I know.
No. Big disclaimer, any trans people out there.
That's where people are concerned that someone's going to walk in like a woman and look at their daughter.
That being said, not all trans people are pedophiles, but there might be one or there might be two, just because, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that they're the bad people, and I'm not saying that we should change all the laws because of those fucking assholes. I'm just saying that you can't speak for everyone. No,
I don't have a concern with a trans woman in the bathroom with my daughter. There's a trans woman. They think they're a woman. They believe they're a woman.
Right.
I have a problem if someone's like, listen, I'm a woman, I'm walking in there. And there's people that will do that. There's fucking pedophiles. It's a real thing. So it's like, why would I openly be like, hey, anybody who says they're a woman is welcome to go in the same bathroom as my daughter? That's where it's weird to me, and that's where there's problems. And it's not that I'm against trans people anyway, because if you're a trans person, you go into the bathroom, I have to give a shit where you poop. I don't give a fuck. The problem is that when you open the door to say anybody can use any bathroom, you open the door to making it a norm for someone who looks like a man to walk into a woman's bathroom. And it makes people uncomfortable.
So here's where I disagree with Walton, and there should be
what Walton say.
Walton,
what Walton say?
Many of the trans people have mental issues anyway. They're already mentally unstable as it is to actually change their gender. Now, I don't know what he's saying there, but what it seems to be implying is that trans people have mental issues, many of them, which is just grossly incorrect. He's lucky
I don't see that comment.
I'm not saying that there are trans people out there without that I'm sure there are trans people out there that have mental issues. That being said, just because you want to change your gender or you don't feel comfortable in the gender you were born in doesn't make you mentally unstable. It just makes you uncomfortable in your own skin. Just like if you're fat and you want to be skinny, if you're bald and you want hair, if you have a dick and you want a vagina, it's all the same. You just feel a little more comfortable changing your outward appearance to match what you feel like on the inside. That's all it is. It doesn't matter.
Jeremy,
there are more
gay people used to be called crazy.
Gay people
it may be
used to
deemed
mental hospital.
Yeah, transgender may be deemed a mental disorder now, but gay people was then, so it could change.
I divorced my wife. She was crazy, so I sent her to a loony bin. Yeah, the rules.
Women used to be put in loony bins for reading books, so like, whatever.
Yeah. Just
No,
because-
I agree with that. Fuck that. You ain't reading shit.
How do you even know where you are?
Drink your truly and shut the fuck up.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's dipped into the kinky. You can tell.
I feel targeted.
Dipped into the kinky. Holy shit.
So, cleared it up for those if you're not reading it. He says he doesn't mean anything out of hate, or it's not a disgust or anything like that. But the problem is that he's right. All right, Stone Cold, calm down there.
Me? Her? Oh, she drank that truly fast. She's, I'm gonna drink it. I'm gonna shut up. Listen.
No, what I mean is that he's right in that it is deemed a mental disorder. While that is incorrect, it shouldn't be a mental disorder. Just like women are hysterical, so they need to be put in loony bins in the 50s. You know, that's not. You know, that's wrong. It's fucking wrong. So we need to change the paradigm. You know what I mean? Like if we're talking at it as a mental disability or a mentally unstable person wants to be a woman, that's incorrect. There's nothing mentally unstable about this person. They just want to be different. They want to feel they want to be on the outside what they feel on the inside. There's nothing.
I think the problem with that people have with trans athletes, trans bathrooms, just anything in that realm is they don't know yet. And it's kind of a new thing. Trans athletes, I mean, the trans thing really, I think, hit center stage with Caitlyn Jenner. So I think people are still coming around and still really don't know what the fuck to think about it. And there's still parents that disagree. This is a generational change. And the same thing that happened with gay marriage is a generational change. You can fight it for 30 years, but it takes until a new generation is in place that's acceptable of it.
Trying to get someone out and do that. So anyway, go ahead.
I agree.
No, I don't know. I'm trying to toss it to somebody else. I ran out of things to say.
No,
But yeah, I mean, it's
Kat, feel free to chime in. You know, we're starting to run over time a little bit here, but so I want to touch on one more thing before we hit the too long to be acceptable mark. The trans ban in the military was another thing I want to talk about real quick. I know it's not a real quick thing to talk about, but the trans ban is something that to me goes hand in hand with don't ask, don't tell. The problem with the trans ban again is that the military as a organization doesn't know how to deal with this right now, just like they didn't know how to deal with homosexuals in the military. So the argument is that we're just going to say no trans people allowed until we can figure this shit out.
The military does know how to deal with it.
Did you raise your hand?
I know.
Oh, fuck.
I didn't want to.
Is there a button for that?
But I disagree with that. I've watched two people.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Jeremy, tattoos deform your body or disfigure your body.
Yeah, if you have
piercings disfigure your body.
You know,
let's just go there. I don't like that stat. I don't agree with you, but go ahead, Kat. I'm sorry.
No, the military did know how to deal with trans people. They actually made, they the big concern was people would take advantage of the healthcare in order to kind of get all the elective surgeries. But from what I learned,
who gives a fuck? They fought for their country. They should get whatever the fuck they want.
But yeah,
they should.
But they, the two people that I watched transition, and small asterisks of the details I might get wrong or might be different for other people, they had to go through an amount of therapy to say that they were transgender and then kind of get approved for a treatment is the wrong word, but kind of like a treatment plan of here's the hormone that I will be on for this amount of time. I only get a couple of elective surgeries I'm allowed to choose. So these are the ones that are important to me that I'd like to get, whether it's a boob job or a sex reassignment, like a genital reassignment surgery or facial reconstruction or something like that. They had to, or vocal surgery, something, they got to choose what surgeries were important to them. And then there was an amount of time where they were in the process of transitioning, but still had to identify as their former gender. before they were allowed to get a waiver to follow the regulation for females, for both of these soldiers that I know for females, that they were able to take PT tests according to the female standard.
The thing is, there's a really long process to this. This isn't.
I'm saying that the Army did have a process, and
I think the process sounds stupid.
why?
I do. And I think the Army, actually, I think the military in general is easier to fix than your rugby league. Honestly.
Oh, do tell.
Because how long is your average contract?
4 years.
Yeah, say 4
4
years.
years. There's people that go career. There's people that go a lot longer, obviously.
Minimum.
But 4 years. So I think that's a culture you can flip in 4 years. I think that being that it's voluntary and you're volunteering into an army that allows trans people, then if you're not comfortable with trans people, you don't volunteer into that army. So there's going to be some hard times throughout that 4 years, whatever, and there might be some things you got to change at the top of the process. But if you want to have trans people in the army, it's something that's doable, and it's something that's doable in a way that allows them to be there. And listen, if you're not comfortable with it, then maybe that's not a place for you to be. And honestly, what does it matter who's next to you if you choose to fight for your country?
But see, so there's the argument again, is what you just said. Oh, yeah, I agree with you. Let me preface this whole thing with I agree with you. It shouldn't matter who the fuck is next to me, white, black, brown, gay, straight, boy, girl, doesn't really fucking matter. If they're willing to bleed for me, I'm willing to bleed for them. That being said, there are more people who are cisgendered and uncomfortable with trans or gay people in the military than there are trans or gay people willing to go into the military. So as a company, you protect your assets. I'm going to keep 100,000 straight men or 1,000 gay men. What's my point? I don't care about these guys because I have 100,000 straight men who I'd rather protect than these guys over here.
Honestly, I think you just made my argument for me. That it's something that's easier to fix in the military than it is in a private business. Because you can't say that you're running the military like a business, because if you start talking about running your military like a business, you're getting into like Donald Trump shit. It's not a business, it's a military.
It absolutely is a business.
It's run like a business.
I'm sorry, bro. I know you haven't been in. The Army is absolutely, I can't speak for the Marines or Air Force or Navy, but the Army is a fucking business. We are lowest bidder blood bags. That's all we fucking are.
But so I'll say that I think the argument of trans people, came hand in hand with allowing women into combat roles in 2015. And in 2015, we were allowed to join the field artillery. And they said, females, if you want to join the field artillery, what?
Go ahead.
You have to be able to do exactly what all of these male soldiers are doing. So if you want to do that, then you have to lift these 103-pound rounds, put 15 of them into that cat loader and take them out, and you have 15 minutes. That's exactly what we asked of our male
So
soldiers.
let me clear this up for people who don't know. Kate is a field artillery lieutenant. She was responsible for doing the same exact thing that men your size, Mike, were doing, and doing it at the same level. These
If I
rounds
can't do it,
of her torso, she's loading into howitzers, as opposed to for a guy like yourself or myself, it might be difficult, but it's definitely not something you can't do. If you can lift a 50-pound bag of flour or whatever, sugar, it's fine, you know. But for someone her size, it's going to be a little more difficult. That being said, she's excelled. Give me a little time to shout out to my girl here. She's a badass. That being said, I agree with her. Females in a combat role, while difficult, should be held to the same standard as a male.
I just think that this encompassed the trans issue.
The
I don't.
argument isn't whether a trans soldier or Marine or whatever can contribute the same as a male or female.
I think that's all that matters, though, in the Army. I don't like. It's like you know. It doesn't when we're.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Dustin, how do you deal with it then? You have a lot of reasons why arguments are flawed. There's an issue with this argument and this argument. How do you deal with trans in the military? What do you think?
I'm gonna get a lot of flack for it. I I'm gonna get roasted. I don't think you should allow it.
Why?
I think it's too difficult
For who?
for the people who already exist in the military. The same with homosexuality in the military. Excuse my my lisp or whatever. My homosexuality in the military. I think it's too complicated of a thing. It's easier to say either don't ask, don't tell, or just don't.
I mean, my opinion's different than yours because I didn't serve, and I have an opinion of I don't give a shit who's what. I can't say the same as you, but I disagree.
Let me correct before I get fucking roasted, even though I know I'm gonna get roasted. Let me correct it. I don't think that there are gay men or female men or women or trans men or women that can't do my job better than I could do my job. I'm sure they could. There's no argument there. The argument is that you got to treat it like a company. And if you have 100,000 straight men that are uncomfortable with it and 1,000 gay people who are also uncomfortable with it, you got to go with the majority. I'm sorry. I know it sounds horrible, and I'm not arguing human rights.
Her face right now, dude, you're in so much fucking trouble.
I'm sure online it's good.
You're in so much trouble.
And it's not the art. You should know people that.
No, actually, I think our two fans, we have two fans, and they both agree with you. So.
Well,
Is it Justin and James? No, it's not Justin. Oh, it's
no, they
Christy
tapped out. They left. Yeah, it's Christy and Jeremy. Justin and James left because they didn't agree.
I'm proud of you two for sticking around. It's not, and again, it has nothing. Yeah, right. I hear you. But
I think that your opinion just would have been different if you served alongside of people who were transitioning and saw how it was a process that didn't affect anyone around them. And they're no more, I mean, people have more issue with me being a female in charge of them than they do with the person alongside of them that's transitioning. And not to say that our trans soldiers don't get discriminated against and hate and all kinds of stuff, but it just made me like really sad when you said that, because I like one of the best people that I serve alongside of is a trans woman, and that sucks that maybe, you know, if she joined 10 years ago she wouldn't have been able to transition.
I would almost guarantee that she wouldn't be able to transition.
So I don't know if you can read comments. You don't know anything about Jeremy Walton. Let me just preface his comment. He served as a Marine and in the Army. He deployed as both, I believe. So he's military. He served, absolutely. He said that you can't deploy if you're going through treatment. Is that true?
I don't know if that's accurate. That being said, I don't know if it's inaccurate either. I think it's the same thing. It might just be a surgical thing or like a treatment thing. It's difficult for you to get your testosterone treatments while in the desert, right? It might not be whether or not you can deploy. It's just whether or not you can do it well.
You can't deploy if you're within 90 days of starting a new medication, because they want to make sure that you're stable and don't have any side effects. And you can't deploy if you're about to have a surgery or you are on recovery from a surgery. So it's not that you can't deploy if you're trans. I know people who
or transitioning
yeah, that's what I meant. But I know people that have delayed their transition so that they could deploy. You know, it's not, people don't just, or trans people aren't trying to dodge deployments or any, it's nothing like that, you know.
I'm not saying that, but if they can't deploy, then if they're transitioning and they can't deploy, where does that leave their team or their unit? I'm not familiar with the military, but if you're on a
you
unit, right,
you go to a different job. I've been non-deployable before because I've broken both my hips, so I went through a period of time where I was undeployable. And you just, I mean, frankly, I haven't stumbled on a deployment yet, but there are plenty of other jobs to do in the rear that are also contributing to.
That's
you know,
also
being a
what you
service
said. He
member.
said not combat. He said not combat. But
Yeah,
in the rear deployment.
that's another thing where it's like, if you haven't deployed, you're not a real soldier. You guys can go fuck yourselves. If you're, quite frankly, if you don't believe that support units aren't pivotal to combat units, then you're a fucking asshole. And I'll say that to anybody. As an infantryman, I couldn't have done my job without the S shops. I'm not even talking about like food and gear. I'm talking about paperwork. Couldn't do your fucking. Yeah, you would, Walden. You fucking would. Anyway,
Who is this? I mean, someone's got to know him. Who is this?
we
Jeremy, we grew up with Jeremy. We've known Jeremy for 20
Oh,
years.
so you're okay with
Jeremy
saying
for a long
fuck you?
time. I knew him later in life, but yeah,
We've called, there's been fuck yous back and forth for 10 years. It's not a big deal.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We've known Walton for a long time. He's a decorated Marine soldier that
Dustin, I hate those people.
Yeah, you fucking would. Anyway. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Well, I stand by it. You're still an asshole. Anyway, he says that he just hates the people who they don't support, or they didn't serve, they didn't support. You're still an asshole. That being said, I need to step back so that I don't get unfriended by people that.
I mean, you're already sleeping in the basement tonight. It's fine.
Yeah, that I don't get unfriended.
That's different. Listen, not getting laid is different from getting unfriended. Let's be real. This is the world we live in.
Well, unfriend him on Facebook. His virginity will grow back.
So your cherry's coming back, bro.
Is that I don't mean it as I dislike or I don't support or I don't truly feel for homosexual people or trans people in any way, shape, or form. There's no one that I know as a straight person that supports those causes more than I do. I truly do. Even when I was in the military, we had an option to donate to causes when we first got in, and I donated to a pro-gay a project that helped students who were trying to come out of the closet. And this was in the early 2000s. This was not something that was common. It was still pretty like, oh, he's gay. Oh, that's weird. It was still kind of weird. I
mean, let's just go with the fact that a lot of your life people thought you were gay.
I love you all more than Mike does.
A lot of your life people thought you were gay. So obviously you're cool with gay people.
It's true.
But I mean, it goes to the point of what you're saying right now goes to the point of why I even do this anyway, because you have to like qualify your statement. You're like, I don't hate gay people. I don't hate that. I don't hate this. And you shouldn't have to do that anymore. It's stupid. You have to be like, listen, I don't hate gay people. I just don't like this one thing. I'm not homophobic.
Right. Which is what is important. And I agree. But, it's also the world we live in that we do have to validate and justify what we're saying, because our words, whether or not even in passing, carry so much weight anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think it's become, honestly, I didn't really think racism was still a thing. Like, I thought we were all past thinking that Black people weren't equal to white people. But, now that there's huge conversations of whether or not unarmed Black people should they be killed, whatever, or that's not today's conversation. But
yeah, I don't know anyone that thinks unarmed Black people should be killed, but we'll do this another day.
But nonetheless, I think that now that we're even we're bringing racism back or up, I think that you do kind of have to put the disclaimer, like, I'm not homophobic, because people who are genuinely homophobic and genuinely transphobic suddenly feel comfortable speaking out about being like, I think gay people should go back in the closet and trans people didn't exist in my day. It's like, shut the fuck up. Thank you.
As bad as it sounds, I think everybody should feel comfortable saying what they want to say.
That's the First Amendment.
By me saying that, I think it would be easier for the military to just not allow gay people or not allow trans people doesn't make me hate gay people or trans people. It's truly not the case. I'm looking at it from a pragmatic point of view that it might just be easier to go that route. While it isn't fair and it truly is not right, I just don't know if it would be easier to, the same with trans athletes. We got to go full circle back to trans athletes because we're kind of running out of time here. But to go back to that is like it might just be easier. And again, all things that are easy doesn't make them right. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that just seems that way.
I mean,
I
it's
really
just- go ahead.
no, it's not important. It's fine.
No, yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely
I was
important.
just gonna say that, like, I mean, I really appreciated this conversation because it brought some like perspectives that are also on my side of the argument, if you will, that weren't things that I hadn't thought of just because, we're putting brains together into conversations. But like at the end of the day, I'm just not someone who's going to stop fighting for the rights of trans people and gay people and women and black people. And I'm not going, just because I understand a little bit more of where this corporation might be coming from is just not ultimately going to stop me from fighting for trans people to continue to play the sport.
I mean, there's an example you can follow. I mean, if you're overall not happy with the way the league is treating you or treating the players or treating the people the league are under, listen, they benefit off of what you do.
Mhm.
So there's labor unions. There's different things. There's different ways that you could be represented in decision making, and just calling people transphobic because they disagree with you doesn't accomplish that. If you want to change the league, you need to organize and change the league. You need to change it from
my
within.
my team is. So I'm
So
really.
why don't you give a little shout out and tell them tell us what's going on with that.
Oh yeah. My team is Denver Black Ice Rugby. And I have some really amazing captains, some really amazing leaders who are organizing and have been organizing across teams across America, the University of Michigan, people in Colorado Springs, like literally people across all of the United States to right now share examples of times that we have felt unsafe in rugby, that we would rather have addressed than the issue that they think is going on, which is not trans women. So,
I mean,
yeah.
I think you're doing the right thing there, and I just think that you have more power if you just involve your whole league and challenge the actual league versus, alienating people by saying everyone who disagrees is homophobic, everyone who disagrees is transphobic, going against the people making the decisions versus going against the people who feel how they feel would be the way to go.
I completely agree with you. And I think that's what they're trying to do is just, if just generate all the people in the community who are part of the league to try to demonstrate that basically everyone is against what they're saying or everyone is against what they're saying, one of the two, then maybe they'll have to pay attention.
Awesome.
Yeah, and as far as my feelings on the issue, like I said, if everyone in your league is fine, then I'm fine. And if you can make that to your league, then let's go with it. So
yeah.
Well, hey, we're kind of running out of time here. Kate, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. Big shout out to Denver Black
Thank
Ice.
you for having me.
This is
Jeremy
awesome.
and Christy, you guys are awesome for involving yourselves. Justin and James, you guys left, but cool. Thanks.
Yeah, you guys. For real though, it's an issue, and it's something that's worth talking about, and it's nice to have conversations openly and honestly, and not feel threatened on either side. So, let's keep going forward with this, and we'll keep our finger on the pulse. Let us know, kind of what the World Rugby has to say, and let's see what goes on. Post election,
that will be a big factor, I think.
He's going to repeal a lot of executive orders. That being said, we'll see what happens. So, I'm good to wrap this up, guys. Thanks.
Good night, guys. It was awesome. Fun time.
And see you later.
Peace out.